note to self, be sure to plan better for puzzle-based video games because sometimes they depend entirely on how long it takes for you to click with them. Half jokes aside, Supraland was a weird but overall good time. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't burn out at all in this game, especially with some puzzles that took me a couple hours before I got them right, but it's still a good time. What took me so long with this game wasn't so much how difficult the game was as a whole, rather how many puzzles there were in it. There were some that I understood what to do immediately, and others where I genuinely responded with,
"What the hell is this?"
In Supraland, you play as, well, I don't actually know what you are. The idea is that you're a small clay-like or eraser-like toy in some kid's sandbox with a bunch of other random junk that somehow forms your world. A world where you are royalty of one of those kingdoms, by the way. You are the child of a king and a queen. Specifically, the king and queen of Redville. And in a classic case of Red versus Blue, the Blue Kingdom has apparently shut down your kingdom's water. So most of the journey in the game revolves around you and your mother marching your way to the Blueville gates. Literally. But to do so, you'll need to get up to some Metroidvania shenanigans, you know how it is. The story isn't anything to write home about and is genuinely just there to be silly. There are some good chuckles to be had in this game, and it genuinely doesn't want you to take any of it seriously. Especially with the amount of secret dead guest people that have suspiciously legally distinct attire for you to collect. The dialogue is a bit quirky, but the hints that are given for how to solve certain puzzles can range from helpful to not helpful at all, or better yet, not helpful at all. I put that in quotes because, much like any puzzle, what the nonsensical hints can mean really depends on the perspective you're approaching the puzzle with. I'd be lying though if I said I didn't look up a walkthrough here and there to just get me through some parts whenever I was genuinely stumped. And sometimes I used it to get through a part of the game a little faster if I felt I burnt way too much time on one puzzle out of like 4 or 5 in the area. I hate doing that, especially with puzzle games, but sometimes it really do be like that. I don't want to be stuck on the same puzzle, hitting my head against the wall for 3 days straight for 2 hours per day. It's not even a matter of me being dumb or stupid. I'll happily acknowledge that with some of the puzzles, but sometimes it's legit just you forgot about this one thing in this one spot and you have to flip how you're thinking about that. In fact, since I'm talking about that, let's just talk about gameplay now. There really isn't much else to say about the game's story anyway. The game's bread and butter are the puzzles you encounter during your journey. In true Metroidvania fashion though, some puzzles are straight up not doable or are inaccessible until you have the right ability or item to tackle it. Some of said items and abilities are found after different milestones, while others are upgrades that you can get from one of the many shops around the map, so long as you have the coin and barrels for it. The coin is for the actual purchase, while the barrels are what you use to unlock new items in each shop. I like the barrel system a lot because it gives me a reason to be nosy and go about the environment, as I want to, as a looter, like, ooh, stuff, I'ma find it. Which, by the way, you should get very nosy with wherever you're going since there are hidden goodies and hidden areas everywhere. By the time I rolled credits, I had only achieved 40% progress on the game. So the DLC aside, there's a lot in the game in general. Anyway, going back to puzzles. They aren't just your standard affair of, I found this item in this area, so I'll bring it over here, and then I can progress. Nope. You'll have some physics-based puzzles, some timing-based puzzles, puzzles where you genuinely have to think outside of the box to solve, and my favorite, puzzles that you would never consider the solution for until you're doing something out of frustration and thus finding the solution that way, causing you to want to dunk the developers in a vat of acid. I say that out of frustration, but I also really enjoyed that the game really pushed me to think harder about how I approach different puzzles. That said, some of those solutions had me like, why would I even think to do that? I could give an example or two off the top of my head that aren't in the game but give the same vibes, but just know that, again, the game does a good job of giving hints where it can and where it wants to, and that some of those hints that you're looking for are in the environments. You just need to kind of try everything and see if it works. That said, there were definitely some puzzles where I could have sworn I did not solve them the intended way, but I still walked away feeling smart nonetheless. Shifting gears, the game has combat as well, and it's fairly bare bones. That's not really a criticism on the game's part though, since the devs made it very clear in the Steam blurb saying that the game is a mix between Portal, Zelda, and Metroid, exploration, puzzles, terrible combat, their words, not mine, secret upgrades, and new abilities that help you reach new places. I've played a fair bit of Portal, I've played a Zelda or 3, and I've played Metroid Dread, so I can say that the game definitely borrows something from each of those. As for the terrible combat, well, again, I wouldn't call it terrible, maybe I'm being too nice, but I will definitely say that's not what you should play this game for. You get a basic sword to swing, a blaster to shoot for ranged combat with an alt fire that can detonate your primary fire, and that's about it for your main kit. You get some extra goodies and stuff as you go, but you'll mostly be using your sword and blaster. That said, chaining the blaster's primary fire with the alt fire and blowing up any enemies near it with a well-timed blast will never not be satisfying. But that's about all the praise I have for the combat, since it's just there as a means to an end. There are boss fights in the game, and outside of the 2 that I fought on the crit path, I'm assuming there are more that I haven't seen. But of those 2 that I fought, only one of them could be taken down with damage alone. The other one was a puzzle fight. If there is something I want to bring up that I did have an actual problem with and wasn't just a minor moment of me being frustrated with puzzles, it's the fact that you can get fairly far into the game without getting one of the required upgrades. So you'll be about 5 or 6 hours in, hit a wall, and realize you're missing an ability that you could have gotten at hour 2. So you need to wander around until you stumble on where that upgrade is. The game could have done a better job at funneling where the player needs to go for key items. Not so much where it's linear, but just like putting it in their natural path rather than having it hidden off somewhere when it's a critical item they need. But seeing as this game has not only a standalone second game, but also a larger sequel on the way, I'm hoping they remedy it there. Supraland overall is a good time for those who are looking for a game that doesn't take itself too seriously while also providing some genuinely satisfying puzzles. I'm not a big puzzle gamer, but I know a good one when I play it, and this is a good one. Supraland gets a go for it for me, and you can pick it up for $20 on PC, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Linux, and GeForce Now. If you're on current gen consoles, then outside of maybe Nintendo Switch 2, you can just play the last gen versions from PS4 and Xbox One on your current gen consoles. But with that, I hope you all have enjoyed your stay. I'm TUSDarryl, and I'll catch you all later.